Okay, this video explains what encaustic medium actually is. Now, the first thing people always ask me is, what is encaustic? So this printout will be attached in the notes below, but encaustic literally just means to burn. It doesn't mean that the wax is encaustic. It literally just means to burn in. So it comes from the word encalin, to burn, and to burn in. So it's the process of heating the wax. So if you go to the notes, you'll see this is a PDF down below, but you will see it's actually the art or process of encaustic painting. It's basically the burning in of colours, glaze and pigments with hot wax. So it's not that the wax is encaustic, it's the process of heating which makes the wax encaustic. So that will be below. So what is encaustic medium? So encaustic medium is made from two ingredients. It is literally pure beeswax plus a resin, which turns it into encaustic medium. So beeswax you get in a number of forms. So this is literally a raw form of beeswax, which I've got from some local beekeepers. This has got all the gubbins in the bottom of it. So this is quite dark in colour, smells fabulous. But you can see it's quite a yellowy colour, and this is literally just raw pure beeswax which I have picked up from a local beekeeper. So that is beeswax in its rawest form. The melting point of beeswax on its own is 144 to 150 degrees, which is, I'm going to show you this sheet as well, which will also be in the notes. If you can see that okay, so beeswax on its own has a melting temperature of 62 to 65 degrees and a safe working temperature of 170 to 190, which is 76 to 87 degrees. So I'm going to put this sheet in the notes below so that you've got this as a reference point. You can also find it on the RNF website as well. It's a really handy place to go for resources. They have lots and lots of really helpful information on there. I tend to work in centigrade, so I've kind of done the conversions down on this sheet for you. So this will be on my site. So beeswax on its own has this melting point. Now beeswax can come in this raw form like this. It also, I've got these white pellets. So these have literally been bleached or processed, and the beeswax can be processed in a number of different ways. So these are pellets. And it can be used in encaustic painting. It can be used on its own, but at this point it's pure beeswax. So the melting point of this is also 144 to 150 degrees. But there are some things you need to know about beeswax. And if you go and look for this sheet, again in the notes below, it's just good to be aware that there are different types and grades of beeswax. And this sheet goes into this in a nice amount of detail. So there is chemical bleached wax, sun bleached, there's filtered wax. So there's a number of different ways of processing beeswax, and it's just something you need to be aware of, because some beeswax can be quite inexpensive and others are very expensive. So it's just understanding the differences between the two. There is also a pharmaceutical grade of beeswax, and that's basically a guarantee that you're getting 100% pure beeswax. Nothing else has been added to it. So there are no other different types of waxes that have been added, for example, paraffin wax or lots of other different types of things. So the RNF product that we use literally only uses the pharmaceutical grade of wax, which is just guaranteeing that you've got 100% beeswax and it's not been adulterated with any other processes. So do go and have a reference of this sheet, because this really explains it really well. Fine if you want to paint at home on your own, but if you want to sell your work, then it's worth understanding sometimes beeswax can be chemically lightened, and it's good to have the pure format because it can affect your finished painting, if not now then in months and time to come. So check this one out. So this will help you to understand the different beeswaxes, which I'm not going to go through on this short video. So basically, raw beeswax in whichever form it is, plus Daymar resin. So this is an Asian tree sap. So you get quite big chunks, or it's excuse me, can be some little smaller pieces at the bottom as well. So it's literally an Asian resin. Again, you will find this sheet on the notes below, which will just explain a little bit more about what this resin is. But it is literally just a natural resin from a tree in Asia. Now, the melting point of Daimar resin is 220 degrees. So when you add Daimar resin to beeswax, in whichever form it is going to, the purpose of that is to raise the melting point. It also makes it more durable, and it will also cure and harden over time as well. So it kind of makes the beeswax more robust, basically. So that's what those two are. So by having raw beeswax plus Daimar resin, you create wax medium in whichever form. So this is a homemade wax medium. So all I have done here is I have a recipe for making your own medium, but it's generally 1 cup of resin to between 6 to 8 cups of beeswax. You melt it all up. It melts and melts. You put it into these, and it will solidify. So within this resin, you get a lot of this kind of bark and pieces of twigs and things from the trees. So just natural debris. So once you've gone through this process of mixing, and it takes quite a while, and so I will link a wax medium recipe on there so you can see how to make it yourself. But pour it into something like a Chinese takeaway pot, and once it's completely solidified, all the debris will sink to the bottom, and then you can just literally scrape that off or melt it off, and then you'll have a piece of pure beeswax. It's just got a piece of colour on it. A piece of pure beeswax that you can, a piece of pure wax medium that you can work with. So that's a homemade version. This here is a shop bought version, and this is the R&F one. So this is this product here, Encaustic Medium. So it literally looks no different at all to the white beeswax pellets that we had down here, other than the melting point has now been raised. So you can see now our melting point is 158 to 166 degrees, which is off the top of my head without my sheet. So our encaustic medium, it brings that to 70 to 74 with a safe working temperature of 180 to 200 degrees, 82 to 93. So this is the melting point, this is the safe working temperature. So we have literally taken our raw beeswax, added our Daimar resin, nothing else, and that is what creates encaustic medium. So as I say, either homemade or shop bought. It looks no different other than it's just raised the melting point, and it's just going to make it harder, more durable, and a higher melting point. So that's basically all encaustic medium is, and it's purified beeswax plus Daimar resin creates encaustic medium. So just to recap, we've got beeswax plus Daimar resin equals encaustic medium. Hopefully that makes sense.